Good evening, everyone. I would like to call to order the Dania Beach City Commission regular meeting. It is Tuesday, May 8th, and it is 7:00 p.m. Call the roll, please.
Mayor James.
Here.
Vice Mayor Harris.
Here.
Commissioner Grace.
Here.
Commissioner Salvino.
Here.
City Manager Baldwin.
Here.
City Attorney Ansbro.
Here.
Thank you.
Mayor, I'd like
Yes.
to make a motion to excuse Commissioner Chicky Brandon Marty.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right. Can you please bow your heads for a moment of silence? Thank you. And can you please stand for the pledge? Good evening, everyone. We have a full house. Presentations and special event approvals. I
Mary
thought I
James?
saw, yes.
Aye.
Hi. Commissioner Grace?
Is he here? Rosa's to sign?
Wait, Commissioner Grace, did you have?
Yes, I can't see it.
Well, I don't see him. Thought I saw him outside, Brandon and the kids, but I don't.
Can somebody look outside and see whether the basketball team is out there?
Yes, could they come in? I would like to present to everyone the 9 and 10-year-olds of Dania Beach. The basketball team are called the Dania Soldiers, and they played at Carter Park this season. It was the League and Sunrise, and they lost this past weekend in the playoffs. And so we wanted to just give them some recognition. I believe they came to the commission meeting today. I am going to say their names. I will probably mess all of them up. So please excuse me, but Caden Benaby, Julius Rutry, Raquan Richard, Trenton Holder, Alan Smith, Chauncey Harris, Shamari Lawrence, Octavius Wilson, Kamarion Jackson, and DeMarcus Green. Can we give them a round of applause for such an amazing season? Are they all dressed up? And let's give their coach, Brandon, who is Commissioner Grace's grandson, a round of applause as well. You guys want to go down? Can we go down and take a photo with, can we take a picture with you all? Okay, good.
While they're coming out, let me tell you, they lost their first 3 games, and it was very comical to see them out on the basketball court because they couldn't shoot worth nothing. I could go out there and I could shoot better than, but they won all of their games and got them in the playoffs, and I could not disbelieve. So we're going to have a hot dog, hamburger, pizza, and ice cream party for them. I am so proud.
We're not eating those things, Commissioner Grace.
I am extremely proud. I'm really proud of Brandon because how many 20-year-olds that you know that just will dedicate their time to come back and do something very positive. They've got their own agenda, but he talks to these young men and he made believers out of them. So I'm really happy about that. They had a great lunch on Saturday after the game. They had a pool party. They played volleyball. Ice skating. They did some really nice things. And one of the gentlemen told me that he wanted a bicycle for Christmas. Yeah, you can smile, son. But if those grades are not right, no bike. Okay? I reward you for being rewarded. And I know that all of you academically, you're going to make your grades better. I thank you so much for serving Dania Beach. Thank you.
Would you like to say a few words, Brandon?
Sure. Is this the...
Yeah, that's the mic. You just took it. Okay.
Good evening, everybody.
Took the mic.
I just want everybody to know that
I was asked to do this with the kids, coach them, and at first I wasn't very sure if I wanted to do it or not, but I went and been in my room and thought when I was a kid and how I was able to learn and be taught different things, and it was fun learning. So, and I just came out of college, so I felt the need that I could teach them some things that could advance them like a little before like other kids, you know, get what I'm saying? Like, get them ahead. But I want to thank each and every one of y'all for making me grow as a person, and I've honestly watched y'all grow from the first day we had practice, even though I know some of y'all were told that y'all couldn't play, and y'all didn't let that stop y'all when I told y'all that y'all could play.
It was your grandmother.
Oh, correct? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Grandma. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
She did it. She did it. It was awful.
But I'm really proud of y'all, and I want y'all to continue to grow and succeed.
Thank you. All right, we'll see you all on the football field. It's football season now, right?
All right.
All right. No? Okay. Is Representative Joe Geller here yet? So we'll wait for the legislative wrap-up from Representative Joe Geller until he gets here. We'll go straight into citizens' comments. Listen, I know I see a lot of you all out there. If you all want an opportunity to speak, please fill out this form. It is on the right-hand side when you walk out the door. And please give it to Tom, our city clerk, and you'll be able to come and speak for 3 minutes. Patricia Tyra. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, all.
Good
Dr.
evening.
Patricia Tyra. I haven't been here for a while, so you've missed me, haven't you? Yes. I'll be quick. One of the last times I was here, which was years ago, was with a proclamation. This week is National Nurses Week, and so I would like to wish all my nursing colleagues actively working here in Dania Beach or retired like me a very welcome to National Nurses Week. That's number one. Number two is I would like to talk about the signage that's over on 30th, right on the grounds of the original fire station, which is now BSO's station. The signage is on the grounds of the station. However, when you drive that stretch of road, you should not be looking over on the right. Is there a way that the city could talk with Parks and whoever else and move the sign so it's in the middle where we have the separation between going north and south, where there's a turn that goes right into the BSO to turn around and go in there? It would be really nice to highlight that that's the entrance to Dania Beach because you're coming from Hollywood on the north. So if someone could sort of do a little of that. It's been a while.
Noted. We got you.
Third, I'd just like to say, and I said this to one of the commissioners, I'm a little disappointed with the new signage, which is the new seal. I thought it was only going to be a logo, and I don't think it's really depicting everything that we would have liked to have had, nor did I realize that that's what it was. So perhaps we could have a little bit more explanation in the Dania Beach Press. And I hope that you won't throw away the old logo signage seal, because maybe we should have it in the city some places.
Well, this is the new seal. Thank you. Carol Hemmis. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
My name is Carol Hemmis, and I'm at 214 Southwest 6th Street, Dania Beach, Florida. I just have a problem with the roundabouts on Southwest 4th Avenue. I've lived here now it's 19 years, and we used to have stop signs, and then they put in the roundabout, and there's a lot of people that do not follow the one that's in there first. They just come straight through without looking to see if there's anybody close by. I've almost gotten hit a few times. I've seen a few near misses around it. And they took the stop signs away from the side streets So now it's all just yield. And I feel like people aren't really yielding, so they're not following what they should be following. And instead of making a right, when you make a left turn, instead of going around the roundabout, they just cut across in front of it, which puts them in your lane of traffic. So I'd rather a steep speed bump or having the stop signs back again.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Betty Ellis?
I think Ms. Ellis left.
No, she right there.
Where's
That's
she?
not her?
Oh, she's back. You switch sides.
Please leave your, please
okay.
state your name and address for the record.
My name is Betty Ann Hampton Ellis. I live at 143 Northwest 7th Avenue, where I've lived forever in Dania Beach. So the ones that have 10 and 15 years in, try. I won't count them for you. Dania Beach 33004.
Okay.
Was I supposed to say something else?
Just what you want to
I
tell
may
me.
go on and make my
Yes,
statement now.
okay.
The reason I'm here, Mayor Tamara James, Vice Mayor Bill Harris, and commissioners, city attorney, and city manager, thank you for the opportunity to say a word. I am here because there is a group, and I'm speaking on ordinance number 20180.
Do you want to wait until we get to that?
That's why I was surprised that you
Okay,
had already
okay.
called me.
Let me sort these out because I
Because
just got a
I'm-
lot more. So I'll call you back up. Is that okay, or would you rather?
No, I'd like to follow the program or agenda as written,
Okay,
protocol.
thank you. Mr. Sean DeRosa? I think everyone knows, like, church rezone, TSM support of effort-based experience. Approval church rezone.
Good evening, Commissioners, Vice Mayor, Mayor, City Attorney, City Manager. Thank you for the opportunity to allow me to speak. Tonight, I wanted to share some
Please state your
concerns.
name and address.
My name is Sean DeRosa, 408 Southeast 5th Street, Dania, Florida, 33004. I wanted to share some concerns in a couple of areas. The first concern was a sense of urgency pertaining to the Airbnb situation in the city. I think we're in an urgent situation where we need to have an immediate workshop in terms of putting some reasonable regulations on the books in the city pertaining to maximum occupancy of the units, pertaining to garbage collection, pertaining to noise and curfews. It's typical that hotels do have curfews on their patio pool areas. I went through a situation last week where we had about 8 or 9 residents on a patio pool area where they would start the party at 9 p.m. and they wouldn't wrap up to 6:30 a.m. And they did that about 3 or 4 nights in a row. And I think we should also have some primary contact registration with the city that residents can get a hold of so we know who's coming and going from the property. So what the city management can do with our elected officials pertaining to an urgent public workshop to put some firm regulations on the books would be greatly appreciated. I had a situation also where we had 16 occupants in the home right next door to me too. So it's really disrupted and disturbed my my normal enjoyment of my home. Number 2, I wanted to still bring up the issue where when I purchased the home here 18 years ago, I had equal access to the express highway of I-95. And now the city of Dania is 100% segregated from the express lanes, unfairly segregated from the express lanes of our public expressway. And I know you may say it's a state highway, but the city had prior precedent where we spent about $3.5 million to deal with the federal airport expansion issue. So there's kind of precedent there where our city residents did get some support from the city. And I want to see if we can establish some type of coalition, maybe with the city of Hollywood, because I know they're running into some of the same issues. But Mayor, I know you drive down to Miami, and to go from Sheridan Street or Sterling
It's
to
a headache.
163rd Street, that could take an hour sometimes, whereas if you're on the express highway, the express lane, it can take you 5 minutes. So I passed out a form there pertaining to the noise abatement, what they were able to get for the people who were impacted, and I believe it was about 5,000 homes. And it only appears about 1,000 homes have received something, but it goes back to, we have 30,000 residents in our city. And we spent $3.5 million to get 1,000 homes some type of relief. And now we have a situation where 30,000 residents are unfairly segregated from the public expressway, and the city's doing nothing to remedy that for folks who bought a home in this city. So I wanted to share that, and then last but not least, I know last year I brought up the issue with the flooding of the 401 Sheridan Walmart Plaza, and I don't know what's been done there to remedy that situation, but we're coming up on the rainy season again, and I haven't seen any drain construction in that parking lot. And I know Mr. LaFair was working with Mr. Baldwin on trying to see what's going on with that. So if that could please be followed up and something shared with what's going on with that parking lot so it doesn't flood again this year, it would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
As far as the flooding goes, there were some corrections made, but it's hard to measure exactly because we haven't had any rain. So I guess when the first heavy rainfall comes, you know, June 1st or whenever, then we'll be able to tell at that time. And as far as the express lanes, like when I talked to you on the phone the other day, the expressway is governed by the State of Highway, Florida Department of Transportation, and we have like zero jurisdiction, but it would take a coalition of residents to try to get something done in a couple of years, probably, because the express lanes right now are under construction all the way up to West Palm Beach.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but I don't think our city residents understand that we're completely losing access to the express lanes, and that's another area where I think it would be appropriate to have a public workshop to explain to the residents of the city of Dania. I see you say it's a state highway, but what I was trying to share with you is that now we have a precedent in the city that for a federal airport that we had no jurisdiction over,
Right.
we decided to spend $3.5 million to lobby on behalf of our 5,000 residents that were impacted by that airport expansion. And that was a federal airport expansion that the city decided to get involved with. Now we have 30,000 residents losing access to a public expressway express lane, and nobody's doing anything about it. And I think if we had a public workshop to make the residents aware, right now they're also getting ready to expand the bus benches along Federal Highway. They had a public workshop that I was invited to give feedback from Hollywood to Dania Beach Boulevard.
Well, actually to Broward Boulevard.
Okay.
But yes.
We've never had a public workshop that said, listen, you bought a home in the city of Dania, you no longer have access to the express lanes. And I know the mayor is in this situation like me because she travels down to the University of Miami. It's pathetic that you got to sit in traffic for an hour now while the express lane that you're unfairly segregated from, you could be down in 5 minutes.
Can you take a look at it, Vice Mayor? The MPO?
Of course.
Okay.
About the jurisdiction over the expressway.
Well, I
I-95.
understand there's a jurisdiction issue, but the issue is why did the city spend $3.5 million over a
can't tell you
federal airport aviation jurisdiction?
Well, I wasn't here, so I can't
No,
answer that.
but there's precedent now where you took action for 5,000 residents or 5,000 homes that were going to be impacted by that airport expansion, and I just gave you a record that only 1,000 homes have benefited from that.
Right. I'll tell you what I'll do, Sean. The next time But
Right.
there is an MPO meeting, I'll give you a call, and you can go and speak in front of the Metropolitan Planning Organization, which is the funding arm for the federal government that creates road projects and funds everything. Isn't that right, Mark? And it would be, you could get right in front of them and they could tell you exactly how things work when it comes to federal issues. You're welcome to go with me,
You're-
absolutely.
Yeah, you're saying it's a federal issue. I thought it was a state issue. It's a state highway.
Mark LaFerriere is over
Okay.
there shaking his head, but
But
it's the Federal Highway
Okay.
Administration, but.
Okay, but I want the commission to
Okay.
understand that there's prior precedent that we spent $3.5 million on the federal airport expansion. Federal issue that impacted about 5,000 residents. This impacts your entire cities being segregated. I assume you spoke to Hollywood too. They're having issues with the expansion or the loss of the expressway as well.
I'll give you a call, Sean, and then we'll go over things that we could possibly do to see if you wanted to go with him and possibly see what we could do to remedy this. All right. I did want to.
And I think we should have a public workshop, at least explain to us residents what you're doing with our expressway.
Okay, we'll
It's never
speak
been
about it.
shared publicly. I bet you if it was shared publicly, you may have some people come forward and say, listen, why is this happening?
Okay, we'll speak about it. You're welcome. I do want to mention this before we go on further about the Airbnb. I know we have been addressing these concerns and having great concerns in all of Dania Beach, and it is increasing by the day. I know I received a phone call for Pat Chuckerman, and I'm supposed to be sitting down meeting with her to discuss this as well. You have homeowners that are sitting next to party houses, and I'm not sure of how aggressively we are approaching this, but it is a priority in my eyes on things that we absolutely have to address at this commission, on this commission. Oh, he's sitting right in front of me. No, Joe. Representative Joe Geller, would you like to come up?
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Can you speak into the mic, please?
I can try and do that. Better?
Yes, that's awesome.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners,
Good evening.
Mr. Manager, Mr. Attorney, Mr. Clerk. And hello to everyone.
Hi.
As you say, Mayor, I'm Joe Geller, and I have the privilege of representing about half the city, I think, in the Florida Legislature, District 100. So I did want to come and talk to you on the dais and to the members of the public briefly about our recent legislative session that just concluded. Not the best legislative session I've seen, frankly, but I will say that a lot of very bad bills didn't get through, and that's always something. In particular, I caught kind of a little bit of the conversation about the Airbnb. The legislature has continuously tried an assault on home rule. And they continue to have the misguided belief that once they walk, I said this to them in debate, they didn't love it. When they walk into that Capitol building, they just somehow think they all get a lot smarter. And that's just not the case. I try to remind them that the very same constituents that had the wisdom to send them to Tallahassee are the very same constituents that select you and our county commission, our school board. It's the same people, and they're equally wise in their choices for the legislature and for local government. I am proud to say that I've been recognized both by the League of Cities and the Florida Association of Counties as a defender of home rule. That government that's closest to the people usually knows best what it is that the public wants to see done. And whatever decision this commission might decide to make on short-term rentals like Airbnb and others, that should be left to you and to your citizens and not dictated from Tallahassee. And I've continued to fight that, and I'm happy to say this year we sent a lot of these anti-home rule pieces of legislation back to the dustbin unpassed. So that's one thing. It was a difficult session. We started with supposedly a budget deficit, and that looked like it was clearing up, and then the hurricane hit. And then just when we were trying to make that work, then of course came the terrible tragedy at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High, and I'll talk a little about that right in conclusion. But we did do some things in relation to the hurricane in particular, in view of that other terrible tragedy at the nursing home. There now is a requirement for generators for both ALFs and for nursing homes to help protect vulnerable citizens. That's a good thing. Responsible players in the industry generally went along with it, and the people who opposed it, by and large, were not so responsible. But we have an obligation to protect people. That was a step forward. After some years when nothing was done on the environment, they did put aside $100 million for the Florida Forever land buying program. The voters voted on that a few years ago and mandated that, so it's nice to see that my colleagues in the legislature finally got the hint and went along with that. There were some bad bills. In particular, there was a bad education bill that got through, and they continue to take money away from traditional public schools and put it behind not just charter schools, but particularly behind this voucher program for private schools. I have an issue with that. Public education is the great leveling factor in this society. It's important. I support it. And unfortunately, we need some different people up in certain parts of the legislature from different parts of our state. That was not a good proposal, but at least we did finally show some support for the Bright Futures program that helps people with higher education. And, you know, the increase was modest, but at least it was something, and that'll help our outstanding students, no matter what their financial ability is, be able to go ahead and get an advanced college degree. Again, a lot of different issues that came up in front of us. The budget was very difficult. We finally came up with a budget. I'll say I voted for the budget for a couple of reasons. Sometimes I don't support them. This wasn't a great budget, but there were some things in there. The environmental piece is one I mentioned, but there were a few others. In some measure, the defining moments of the session came in regard to gun legislation. Now, I understand what our Constitution says, but we have a problem. Assault weapons were illegal in this country to be sold commercially for 10 years from, I believe it was 94 to 04, right about there. It's not a constitutional issue. That was upheld. You don't have the right, I don't know if any of you ever watch old movies, but if you've ever seen those old, Prohibition era stuff, they used to have these things they carried in guitar cases, Tommy guns. Those are illegal. You can't have that. You can't have a bazooka. So while respecting people's constitutional rights, there are limitations that can be imposed. Now, this gun piece of legislation is the first thing that's been done in about 30 years in the state of Florida. And it was controversial. I'll tell you, it had one provision in it that I really very intensely, not just dislike. We have this proposal they brought forward to allow school personnel to be armed. And I think that's a tragic mistake. It's one I think, frankly, is likely to lead to loss of life. It's not full-time classroom teachers, but assistant principals, coaches, people like that.
The red button's gone. We just got it. It better not be broken.
While we wait, I'll try to speak up.
Good.
I think paper may not be used to having that piece of paper shooting back at them.
No, that's right.
And somebody is going to just miss, or someone will duck, or there'll just be a tragedy. I'm convinced at some point, if that program is implemented, it's going to be, by mistake, some coach or whoever will end up shooting a student. It'd be a terrible tragedy, it'd be inadvertent, but I believe that will happen. And let me say in addition that I think...
We got you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom.
They just turned it off.
No, don't touch it. It's on. Oh, now it's off. No, now it's off.
How about now?
It's
Okay,
on.
there it
You're
is. It's
good.
not on, it's not lit, but it's there. Okay. I also would hate to be the teacher or coach or whoever who's waving around a gun in a good cause when SWAT shows up, particularly if that teacher happens to be a person of color. And SWAT shows up there and nobody's in uniform. That gun better be on the ground in an awful hurry or somebody is going to get shot. So that was a real problem. Every Democrat voted against that provision, but it was left in. However, there was a lot in the bill to like. And I'll say very frankly, I ended up voting for that bill. I thought it was the right thing to do something. There's a provision that raises the minimum age to own a long gun from 18 to 21. There's a provision that requires a 3-day waiting period, mandatory in all cases, and that will let hotheads cool down. There was a provision to ban what they call bump stocks, which were used in the shooting out in Las Vegas that turns a simple weapon into basically an automatic weapon. No hunter needs a bump stock. No sportsman needs that. There was a provision that spends a great deal more money on mental health because these dangers are not only in our schools. Absolutely. There was a provision that I fought for years to increase the number of school resource officers. I'd rather there be no guns at our schools, but if you're going to have one, for God's sakes, let's have it in the hands of trained, sworn, certified law enforcement officers, not amateurs. And I had a bill in 16 and a bill in 17 to increase the number of school resource officers and help have the state pay for it. And not once in those years did my bill even get a hearing in committee. And in fact, this year, when this tragedy occurred on a Wednesday, first thing Thursday morning, I dusted that off and introduced it as an amendment in one of my committees to a bill run by the House Majority Leader, no less. And they were so afraid to talk about it, they temporarily postponed the Majority Leader's bill rather than take up my amendment. And yet, 10 days later, the governor took exactly my proposal and put it into his suggestion for this law to increase school resource officers, even down to the ratio I had put in my amendment, 1 resource officer for every 1,000 students, which would have meant 4 at Marjory Stoneman Douglas, not 1. I don't mind that they never said Representative Geller's been pushing this bill for years. What I care about is that it got done and it was put in the bill. And I just want to add one thing on it. Maybe the most important provision in this bill is one that's gotten almost no attention. It was authored by my colleague, Representative Lori Berman, just elected to the state Senate. And it's for something called risk protection orders. I don't know how many people in the public are familiar with the idea of a risk protection order, but with all this nonsense they said about who was responsible, who missed what, the FBI didn't catch something, or my friend and our great sheriff, Scott Israel, one of his people didn't see, or the state, much as they tried to deflect responsibility. There were numerous reports to the Department of Children and Families. What they don't tell you is that, say, the FBI had caught this problem and not, it had focused on it and went by and went to this young man's house. Unless they could prove that he had committed a crime, there wasn't a thing they could do whether they went out there or not. They could have shook him up. They could have yelled at him some. But they couldn't even take his weapons. They can Baker Act you, but that's only 72 hours. And at the end of that, unless you're committed, they have to give you back your guns. So we now have a law in this state that was part of this bill called risk protection orders. And if you think that your neighbor, I hope the public is paying attention here, if you think your neighbor or your nephew or someone you know who has a weapon is acting very oddly, is acting strangely, is making threats, you can call our sworn law enforcement officers. You can call the police, the sheriff's office, and you can say something. And you can tell them, and they can go out and they can basically, they can sue that person. The person gets due process. We don't, due process is no afterthought. But they can go in front of a judge. They give somebody 2 weeks' notice unless it's an extreme emergency. And if the judge agrees, the judge can order those weapons confiscated. They can be held for a year, at which time, if they're still acting that way, they can go back and ask them to be held further. They don't confiscate it. They just seize it for safekeeping, and if you get better, great. That is a missing tool that law enforcement has not had. It comports with our constitutional notions of due process, but it was also something that would help keep people safe. And my judgment at the end of the day, and it was a very, very, the worst thing I've ever had to vote on, to have that school personnel being armed program in there. I could not be more against it. But I thought there was so much in this bill that would help keep people safe. And frankly, with all of the young people that came up, not just from Marjory Stoneman Douglas, but across the state, I just didn't feel we could tell all those young people and the parents whose children were murdered that we weren't doing anything. What we did was far from enough. Not only because we didn't do anything about assault weapons, although we did ban those bump stocks, but I understand, I realize also that not all shootings that take place with firearms take place in a mass shooting environment, that there is an epidemic of violence in our communities that goes on every day, and it doesn't get the attention because it's 1 or 2 people that are killed in our communities, and that's tragic too, and we need to find more ways to deal with that problem too, and I'm aware of that. But at the end of the day, as I said, I couldn't do nothing. We had to stand up and do something to help keep our communities and our young people safer. And as much as I fear that there will be a tragic loss of life from that arming school custodians program, I have to pray that that loss of life will not be measured in 17s, like at Marjory Stoneman Douglas, or in 26s, like Sandy Hook, or 49s, like Pulse. So with that said, Madam Mayor, I appreciate the opportunity to be in front of you and to talk to the public about what happened in Tallahassee. I'd be happy to answer any questions. As always, my aide is with me, Brian Vallejo. We're here to serve you and the members of the public, and any time there is an issue that we can help with, please don't hesitate to reach out to us.
Thank you, Representative Geller. And I do have one thing to ask you about. I have a lot that's wrong with the budget that was passed,
Oh, yes.
but I'll be here all night if I go over it. So I will just say the very one thing that stuck out. So, and maybe you can correct me if I misunderstood it, but did the governor pass a $67 million line item that can only be accessed from the school board if they will arm the teachers or you said the aides or something like that
Yeah.
in the school?
Let me clarify. In order for that, one of the reasons I should have mentioned this, and I'm glad you bring it up. In order for that program to take effect, I can tell you without any fear of contradiction, we are never going to have that program here in Broward County. We're never going to have it in Dade County. We're never going to have it in Palm Beach County. I don't think it's going to be in any urban school district in any part of this state, because both the school board and the sheriff need to sign off in support of that program to bring it to any county, and in Broward, everyone's on record. So it is not coming here. I think there may be a few upstate, small rural counties where they may decide to try it. It's not coming here. If that money is not utilized, it will be reprogrammed. It's not going to just get returned to the Treasury.
No, I guess my question is, in order for them, from what I understood from the school board, I mean, there's a lot of money put for mental health issues and a lot of other resources and things like that in schools. That's a line item for $67 million. And the only way that the school board can access these funds is if they arm the teachers and give them the $500 stipend. I'm asking, is that true?
It's not entirely accurate, no.
Okay.
There is a line item for this program, okay? The school board, let's be clear on education funding. They say there was an increase. That's not really the truth, okay? The increase was so small, measured in pennies practically,
Right. Agreed.
that when you take inflation into account over the last few years, the budget's actually decreased.
Mm-hmm.
Worse yet, the money that they set aside for the whole school safety program, all the things I've just mentioned, wasn't extra money. They took it out of education funding, so it
For the salaries
hurt
and the benefits
education
and everything
even
else,
further.
Correct.
But there is a specific line item that was in the budget that was for funding. They call this, first they called it the Marshall Plan, now they changed it the Guardian Plan. There is a line item in there for allocation to it. So it is accurate to say that to access that line item, you would have to adopt that Guardian program, which is not happening here.
And how
But,
much is that line item?
I'm not sure if your figure is incorrect.
Okay.
I'm not sure it is.
Okay.
That may be the right number. But to say that it can't be, you can't access it from that line item. But if nobody adopts it, or only a couple of very small rural counties adopt it, and the money is not accessed at that line item, it's still in the budget, and it could be accessed if the executive branch, if it's not used for the purpose that they set it aside for,
Okay.
it can be accessed through other means. It has to be repurposed. So it's
Okay.
not, there's truth the way it was explained to you, but it's not entirely accurate. It's a little misleading too. The money doesn't go away and just disappear. It's not just going to go back into the Treasury unless that's where the executive branch decides to put it.
Okay. Well, I thank you, Representative Geller, for coming down here and speaking with us.
Thank you all very
representing
much.
us.
It's a pleasure to be with you, and please call on us at any time if we can help.
Thank you. Public safety reports, Chief.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor,
Good
Commissioners.
evening.
Our current crime trends continue to be the burglaries to open or unlock doors, primarily at public access locations, beaches, parking lots, county parks, daycare centers, mainly during the daytime. We did make an arrest last week where one of our deputies observed a suspect trying door handles. He also had a lookout friend on the corner. So we were lucky enough to get them. We have also experienced an increase in bike thefts on the east side of town, and they're on mainly off of public areas as well, and patios, backyards, carports, and whatnot. We arrested a juvenile suspect for grand theft after video surveillance captured him stealing an iPad from a local cell phone store. He was caught reaching behind the counter when the salesperson turned their back, and he had the device in his waistband, but we were able to make an arrest on that. We also arrested a suspect for burglary. He's an ex-employee of a well-known restaurant on Griffin Road. He jumped on top of the dumpsters, gained access through the roof, and stole $3,200 from the cash register in the office. Another arrest was for grand theft over $20,000 after an investigation revealed that the suspect was smuggling iPads and laptops from his company warehouse off of Anglers Avenue. The suspect would put the items in a garbage bag, take them out to the dumpster, and then call one of his friends to come pick them up. But once again, we were able to make an arrest on that. We executed a search warrant. It was featured on Channel 7, a story on Channel 7. I'd like to reveal everything we confiscated off of that. It's pretty impressive. Right off the bat, there was $19,000 in cash, 1 ballistic vest, 19 high-powered firearms and assault rifles, a quarter-pound of cocaine, approximately 9,000 grams of marijuana, approximately 310 grams of THC oils, and we arrested 2 people. Don't forget our next Get to Know BSO event at the Vice Mayor's house, 902 Nature's Cove Road. It's Thursday, May 17th at 6 p.m. So tell all your friends to come out and see us then.
Thank you.
Any questions, comments? Thank you.
Thank you. Are you coming up, Lieutenant? Good evening.
Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Manager, Deputy Chief Gregory Holness, representing the fire rescue side of it. Not much to report in terms of statistics, but I just wanted to let you know, and as a follow-up to a request, that we did have sound the alarm event this last weekend. 40 homes had smoke alarms installed, and that's tremendous, considering they had either missing or inoperable smoke alarms. So at that point, we know that 40 more homes are protected, and it should be kudos to all those volunteers that were involved with the project. By no means I'll be the last. There are programs such as Operation Safe, surviving a fire emergency, that takes a little bit more involvement of volunteers and volunteer groups in order to go in there. We look for not only issues with missing or damage or non-functioning smoke alarms, but we'll also look at it for a vulnerable population, get them registered with the county so that we have an accurate count through any of the storm seasons. In addition to that, we usually go in and look for trip hazards and look for other ways to prevent needless or preventable, what we call preventable injuries or death to residents. Especially when it comes to the elderly, we'll get into rugs and extension cords, and it's very labor-intensive process. Each person is basically talked to and educated for about an hour to an hour and a half. So with that being said, that's
Okay.
it. Unless you have any questions for me.
Commissioner Grace?
Just want to remind you that on June 3rd, hurricane ready for City of Dania Beach, and make sure that Dania Beach Fire Rescue is on board with the Chamber of Commerce and the City of Dania Beach so that we can coordinate, make sure that we have a great turnout here like we did last year.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
All right. Next, we have the consent agenda. Do we have any pulls?
Mayor, I'd like to pull 5 for a question, please.
All right.
Motion to approve with the exception of 7.5.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
7.5, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, authorizing the proper city officials to purchase services from Dakota Construction in the amount of $26,900 for the demolition of property located at 705 Southwest 12th Avenue without competitive bidding and without advertising for bids for a project that will exceed the annual vendor threshold of $25,000 for a single vendor in a fiscal year, providing for conflicts, further providing for an effective date.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I just was curious why it didn't go out for bid.
This was something that we could piggyback, so that's why. And we're trying to get it done pretty quickly. We
That's
closed
all right.
on
I
the
mean,
property on
I
May
didn't see anything
15th.
that said piggyback on there unless I missed it. And it just looked like it was approved without any other backup on
It's
it.
Dakota. Go ahead, come on up. It's not really piggyback, but it's,
No, it's not piggybacked. It's just we did it because of the length of time and the fact that we're trying to get it done immediately in this situation to have it knocked down. That's why we didn't go out to bid for this issue.
we'd also use them for Smiths, right?
Yeah,
Dakota.
he was the one that knocked down the
I know they do
store.
work. I just was curious why they wouldn't go out.
Yeah,
but I
it's
trust
just the
your
time
judgment.
frame is gonna be,
Okay.
it would be a, 4 to 5 month probably period of time from actual out to bid to award. And, we're trying to get it done in a quick amount
Okay.
of time.
Thank you.
Commissioner, can I add, this is something we've been trying to
I got you.
really
I
expedite.
understand.
Okay.
Move the item.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, public hearings.
9.1, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, amending Section 8 entitled Seal of Part 1, the Municipality of the City of Dania Beach, Article 1 entitled General Provisions of the City Charter to designate the new official seal of the city as authorized by Florida statutes, Section 165.043, entitled Official County or Municipal Seal, providing for conflicts, further providing for an effective date, second reading of the ordinance.
This is a public hearing. Anyone to speak for or against this?
Move the item.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Grace,
Yes.
Commissioner Salvino,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris,
Yes.
Mayor James.
Yes.
Thank you.
9.2, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, approving the request made by Vanessa Williams, pastor and president for the property owner of the Biblical House of God, None Other Church, Inc., to rezone the property generally located at 819 Southwest 12th Avenue in the City of Dania Beach, Florida, as legally described in Exhibit A, a copy which is attached to this ordinance, changing the current zoning classification of the property from neighborhood residential NBHD RES district to general industrial district C1 pursuant to application RZ 1618, subject to certain restrictions, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, further providing for an effective date.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Corinne LaJoy, Planning and Zoning Manager. This application is for a rezoning of the property at 819 Southwest 12th Avenue. Okay, so the zoning of the property today is neighborhood residential, and they're asking to rezone the property to C1. It is located in the Regional Activity Center. There are no code violations or fines recorded on the property currently. The item was duly noticed as required by the land development regulations. The property itself is approximately 1/4 of an acre in size. It is located on the east side of Southwest 12th Avenue, so the west side is the city of Hollywood. That's kind of where we are geographically. The property's current location of the Biblical House of God Church, and reconstruction of the church will require site plan approval, but that will come later, and that's their ultimate goal, actually. So this is the location of the property. I don't know how to point with this. Let's see. So here is the property itself. So, and that's the, this road serves as the border between Dania Beach and Hollywood. So they are asking to rezone the property from neighborhood residential to C1. The neighborhood residential zoning district that they currently have on the property does not allow a place of worship as a permitted use. This is a use that has been there prior to the change in the land development regulations, and so they're like a grandfathered use at this point. The land development regulations does have requirements identified or criteria identified for rezoning requests. These criteria are identified in the staff report, and the applicant has provided justification as to how their requests are consistent with those criteria. The applicant has also volunteered to provide a declaration of restriction. A declaration of restriction on the property, which will limit the future use of that property to a place of worship, because there are light commercial activities that are permitted in C1. That is not their intent, and so the declaration of restriction will limit the use of the property to a place of worship only. This is a rezoning, so this is the first reading in front of the City Commission. A second reading or public meeting will occur on this request. And the Planning and Zoning Board did hear this item on October 18th, and they recommended approval of the rezoning request. Are there any questions of staff at this time?
Yes, you said it sits on a .23.
Yeah, approximately a quarter of an acre. It's a large parcel. You can see it's kind of, it's more than even, I think, a double lot.
Do we have a, do we have any type of a rendering? I know this is what we did with the 7-Eleven project, is that we did not want to approve anything before we saw what was going there. Because I'm going to have concerns about parking issues if they're trying to reconstruct this to make it larger.
Well, what I understand is the structure itself is an old structure from BCPA records. It shows it was constructed in 1960. And so they're in need of repair. And I think what they're planning to do is just kind of start over with a new structure. And so that will require site plan review. They have not submitted that at this time. So we don't know what that site looks like, what the site improvements look like.
Okay. Commissioner Grace?
Corinne, were notices sent out to the residents in that area?
Yes.
And how many parking spaces do they have on that property right now?
I'm going to say, I want to say about 7. It's basically
7 SEVEN?
Yes, approximately. It's the parking is in front of the structure itself, so it's not very many.
And basically, that area is all residential.
Oh, surrounding it, yes, it's neighborhood residential zone. There are homes surrounding the property. Yes.
This is going to be a very difficult one for me because I know the makeup of that neighborhood, and I know that it's going to pose a problem with some of the residents that are surrounding that area, even though I understand that the structure has been there for a long time, and like anything else, wear and tear, you need to upgrade, but I can't really be comfortable at this point changing it to a C1 in that residential area. It's basically the same thing that we tried to do with the warehouses that they were trying to
text amendment
put in the northwest section of the city of Dania Beach before we really said absolutely not, because it was surrounded by a residential area. I can see that there will be a lot of problems with us trying to do this. So I'll hear from the others and see what.
Would the applicant like to speak? Please state your name and address for the record.
Mayor James, Vice Mayor Harris, to the commissioners, as well as the city attorney and city manager. My name is Pastor Vanessa Williams. I reside at 3571 Northwest 18th Place in the city of Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I serve as the pastor of the Biblical House of God Church none other. I've been pastoring there for going on 6 years. I've heard what Commissioner Grace said, and we did reach out to a lot of the residents, some of them personally, and we were not given that type of feedback, but I understand where you're coming from. I apologize if that was me. We're not there just to say we want to put a church there. We're workers in that community. I heard a lot of statistics and a lot of things said about crime and theft and different things going on. We're there to make a difference in that community. We haven't even waited until we got a new building to do this. We're already in the process of working with different ones in the communities, offering different things for the people of Dania, Florida. Dania Beach, Florida. We are not trying to be problematic, but we are trying to be a help. Now, we're going to continue to do the work that we do. It's just that our hands are tied because there are certain laws that you all have that we cannot reconstruct, or we cannot, shall I say, not reconstruct, but facelift. But at the same time, we can't do that, but we can't tear it down and make it safe and modern either. So our hands are tied. So although, even with tied hands, we're still going to do the work that we do. But it makes it very hard to do what we're mandated to do when we have a building that can do so much, could do so much more. I believe you probably already know about the last meeting and things of that nature. So I really don't want to be repetitive in a lot of things, but I want to say that this will not negatively affect any of the surrounding properties, not in value, not in culture, not in anything like that. As a matter of fact, it would upgrade and upbuild the community. We have been there, like I said, 40+ years. A lot of things were said. We're not asking to come in. We're already there. Mm-hmm. What we're asking to do is a place where the people can come together, unite, and do work in an environment that they don't have to worry about building inspectors or someone coming in saying, hey, this place is not safe, it's not worthy, we're going to shut you down. Now, that would be the heartbreak. We're there to help. That's why we have the programs that we have. We're not just another church in the community. We're a working church. And we're coming from our own resources, reaching out into that community to be an aid with law enforcement. We're dealing with a community or an environment that has drugs on the corner. We have people, cars being broken into at night and different things happening. We don't want that. We want to work hand in hand with the city, hand in hand with law enforcement, hand in hand with the fire chief or whoever else we need to make sure that we have an effect that brings about a positive change in that community. Across the street is Hollywood. They're already a C1. We're not trying to measure up to Hollywood, but what we're trying to say is that we have what it takes to help make Dania a better community, irregardless to the age of Dania. We have what it takes, and we're working hard for that. We have strives to do that. Now, what I really want to do is know if there's any questions you all have for us, rather than me just continue to talk, because there's a lot I can say.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
But I'll let Commissioner Salvino go.
All right, thank you,
first.
Mayor.
I didn't see it.
So your church is already there.
Yes, sir.
And it's old and you want to replace it. Are you going to increase the size of the church?
It will increase. It would take up to 4,000 square feet.
How big
The
is the church
sanctuary
now?
itself. The sanctuary itself now is small. It's you have him, I believe, his paperwork. Our church administrator, brother. May I please call up Jeffrey Dees? I believe
It's a house is what it is right now.
Yeah,
right?
it was a rooming house, right?
Okay, so the thing I think the concern is, I think that if a church is there, I don't know why a church couldn't be there. I think the problem is the size that you would be putting back in there, along with the parking issues, and I think that's something that you know, I'd be willing to listen to, because I wouldn't want to take your church away by not being able to help you with, you know, the variance request on this. I mean, it's been approved by the planning and zoning, and of course, we haven't seen the site plan as well, and you know, maybe I don't know if you want to put the efforts into trying to present us with
Yes,
a
sir.
plan first, and then I think maybe you might get a little bit more support with it. I think
Yes,
that
sir.
because I'm not honestly, you know, I'm not opposed to it. I know it's a C1 change, and we did talk about, you know, not putting other things in there, but you're already there. Like you said, you're
Right.
a church, and I'd hate to see it if it's not a body shop you're putting in. It's not a construction.
sir.
It's a church, and I would have more leniency to vote in your favor, but I'd like to see a little bit more of your plan.
That's my fault. I had the site plans as well as the rendering, but for some reason I could not pull it out of my iPad. I'm a little challenged with technology, and I
You
could
didn't
not.
submit it to the city at all?
The simple site plan, I believe, if I can have Jeffrey Dees come up, he can answer that.
No, we want to see it.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. General Steel Contractors, they did send me the rendering and the site plans, but unfortunately, I did change iPads, and I believe I lost it. And when I thought about calling them today, it was too late, because I had a inkling that, oh, maybe it'd be wise if I brought that today. So I do apologize. That's
table it
on
and
me.
come back to us?
But I can get it to you as early as tomorrow morning, tomorrow.
could-
Well,
we could do it.
it's
We
not
could do
going to
it
come,
next
if it tables, it won't come back until the
Okay.
next commission meeting, so, but we would like to see it. Vice Mayor, were you finished, Commissioner Savino?
Yeah, I'm done. I just.
All right.
I'd like to address
think
the
that-
parking.
I
because
think that's what we need to talk about, is some of the parking, how many parking spots you're gonna need. I mean, if you're gonna expand the size of it, but listen, I don't wanna not have you have your church. I just think that we have a plan and a vision in the city right now. We wanna work with you.
We have presently, I'm just going to address the parking if that's okay. Presently, we have a seating of 25, 30 seats where we are now.
Okay.
We're upgrading to a possibility of 86 seats. Now, the thing of it is that because a lot of the church will be different rooms because of our after-school, different things that we're doing in the community, is more geared towards that type of aid. And the parking that we were given in the rendering, that's allotted to us because of the number of seats, is 20 spaces. So it will move from those 4 or 5 spaces, because right now, people are parking, it's an open field, and they're parking in the field. And that would give us at least 20 spaces for now to park, which will be, they said, the legal amount.
Vice Mayor?
I agree with Commissioner Salvino. I have no opposition to your having your church already there and making it bigger, but as in normal building practices, because I see members of the Planning and Zoning Board out there, that we do need to see the site plan. Police, fire, traffic, they all need to see the site plan. And so if you can bring your site plan back within 30 days, we can take a look at it.
Okay, sir.
But that's the normal procedure for any kind of structure that's being built in Dania Beach.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I have no more questions. I'm going to I have a stack of people, if I can allow them to speak.
You want me to go sit down or
Yes,
stand
ma'am.
aside?
No, you can. Pastor Bryant? Good evening. Please state your name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes.
My name is Pastor Bryant, 1630 North.
Can you speak a little louder? You that big and you ain't?
Well,
I know you got a voice
thought
now.
I don't want to scare you, but
You ain't gonna
can
scare
you hear me now?
All right.
Can you hear me? Okay.
I
My name
can
is
hear
Pastor Bryant. I pastor Gracefield Worship Center. I'm fellow pastor with Pastor Vanessa Williams, and I can vouch for their church and the great things that they do in the community. And I'm just here to support them in their endeavors to make the community better. As was already stated, that they have been there in the community, and I think it would be. I just want to stand here as a fellow pastor to support them and to have the city of Dania to really, really, really find it within their heart to help them and to in their endeavor to rezone where they are right now. And I just, that's basically what I wanted to do, to come here just to
Okay.
support as a fellow pastor in the things that they're doing in the community.
Okay, thank you. Tommy Robinson. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Tommy Robinson. I live at 1625 Northwest 18th Avenue in the city of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 33311. I used to be a resident of Dania, Florida. My teenage years, I moved to Fort Lauderdale about 10 years ago.
Okay.
And I'm speaking on behalf of my church, and I just would like to say, I hope you will consider it, because we do a lot in the community. We have an awesome youth department that we have an awesome after-school program when we tutor kids that fall behind in school and that the teacher cannot give them support. We're there to help the kids with their homework. And when you can have a child that reads on a first grade level, and that was in the 4th grade, but by the time of the end of the school year, he was on his level of reading on the 4th grade, I think that is awesome. And not only that, we host community fests that we invite the community to come out. We had different vans to come out, health vans, the mammogram van, the HIV van. We had different vendors to come out to speak to the community. So I hope you will consider that our church can be rezoned in the city of Dania.
Thank you. Star Petty. Petty. No, hope you're not going to be petty. Please state your name and address for the record. Yeah,
Good evening. My name is Star Petty, and I just come to stand on the behalf.
Could you state your address for the record?
I'm sorry. My address is 7907 Southwest 3rd Street, North Lauderdale. But we've been relocated, so many of us have been relocated from Dania. So I'm North Lauderdale now. But I just want to address one of the last concerns in the meeting, but they didn't address it tonight. So I'm well, but I am a byproduct of that hope. I am the byproduct of that mandate. When I came there, I was very young at the time, and I had 5 kids of my own. I have now 5 mature, respectable adults, and I'm grateful to the Biblical House of God. But the issue I want to address was that they were having concerns with other churches in that area. And one of the things, of course, has been established that we've been there. But I was thinking, that's the freedom of America, choice. It's just like when you go to Walmart or anywhere, you go in the dog food aisle or anything, you have Alpo, you have Purina, you have Kibbles and Bits and different things. They all serve the same purpose, but there's different needs and different styles. So I wanted to address that because that was one of my concerns from the last meeting. But it's not an issue here now today, but I stand as a byproduct of that. And I stand to let you know that we do need the hope in the communities nowadays more than ever, and that's what we're there for. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
At the end.
Oh, okay. Kevin Powell. Powery? Powell. Powell.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Kevin Powell. I reside at 7907 Southwest 3rd Street. I'm 23 years old.
You live in Dania?
Margate.
Margate, okay.
Yes. I am 23 years old. I'm currently employed as a full-time data analysis assistant at a resort, and I'm scheduled to finish school next year at Broward College. I have never been committed of a crime or a felony of any sort. Again, I am a byproduct of that 40-year-old building that was there, and that when my mom came, she didn't have hope. So whatever they were doing or whatever you want to call it, it helped me to be the citizen that I am today. So all I'm asking is for just a chance for another young boy like myself to have the same opportunity I had 40 years when some of the ones that's there now will be gone. I'll still be there 40 years later, and I need help to help carry it on.
Thank you. Jeffrey Dees. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jeffrey Dees, and I reside in Fort Lauderdale at 2955 Northwest 33rd Way. I want to stand not only just a member of the church, but a product of what the church has to offer. Born and raised, that one yellow line that's in the middle of the road that separates Daniel and Hollywood, well, I grew up on both sides of that line. As a matter of fact, right down the alley from that same church, Mom stayed there 18 years. The next couple of years she moved on the other side of that line, which is on Pippin Road. And been there, done that. I was considered one of what you call a product of my environment. But when I was introduced to the ministries that this church has to offer, it turned me into a young man. Now I'm actually a father of 5, grandfather of 5. I'm a 30-year city employee for the city of Pima Pines. Taught me how to be a man. You know, I was able to reach back to the same young kids and gave them the same opportunities I had, so that they don't have to learn the hard way and find out too late, which is, I don't say I found out too late. In God's plan, I found out in time. And because of my story, you know, other kids, and I was able to reach back, had a group of young men that's now successful, moved off to other places. And all because, again, don't want to sound like we're repeating the same thing, but because I was given the same hope. And not that I didn't have anything. Well, actually, I didn't have anything to offer in the beginning. But, you know, looking back on what I've had to offer now, I see a difference. And I would like to continue the work that the church started.
Thank you. Marie Avils. Good evening. Please state your name and address
Hi,
for the
my
record.
name is Maria Villas, and I live at 813 Southwest 12th Avenue, Dania Beach, Florida. And I am adjacent to that property, right next to that area. So I do really oppose to that building being increased in size. Beforehand, it was a home, a house, a small home, so not a sanctuary. So what they are serving out of or worshiping from is a home and not a sanctuary. So now we are wanting to rezone that home into something that it was not. They say they've been there for 40 years. A family home has been there for about 70 years. So, you know, I am vested in Dania. I am not just a visitor that comes there once or twice a week. I live in Dania. I have an investment, as I said, here. I want to see Dania be innovative. Just because things were in the past does not mean that they should continue to go on. Within that 2-block radius, there are about 4 churches. In Hollywood, within that 4-block area, there are 11 churches. So how many churches do we necessarily need in a 4 to 5 block radius? As I said before, this is my home. This is where I live day in and day out. As you heard the worshipers or members say, they're coming in from Fort Lauderdale. So they're not necessarily vested here in Dania. If it works, it works. If not, guess what? They can pick up and go back to Fort Lauderdale, Margate, or wherever. So we want to make sure that the property is used as it was designated for. Now, as they stated before, we have aftercare. I'm an educator. I come home after 3. I don't see an aftercare program. I can recall one thing that they've done for the community, and that was having a van there for different services. So usually it is vacant in the afternoons or evenings, maybe once or twice per week. I have problems, or I had problems with them against my fencing and parking. My concern is, if this building increased, then where am I to go? More parking, more problems. They said they wanted to go higher. Well, what about my privacy as a citizen here in Dania? So, you know, I would like for the board to consider me as a resident above all others with visitors coming in. That is quite important for me. We know statistically that when commercial buildings come into residential areas, property value goes down. So I definitely don't want my home or my property value to decrease. They said that, okay, we're here for the long haul. How do I know that? I've been there for 60, 70 years. My parents, how do I know if they leave? What happens to the building? Am I next to a vacant building? I have these things to worry about as a homeowner, okay? Not just, as I said again, because I want the emphasis to go on my investment into Dania. I am a resident. I live here in Dania. So it's very important to me that you really take this into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Cecile Collins. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Oh. Good afternoon, to the board and to everyone in their places. My name is Cecile Collins. My address is 722 Southwest 7 Terrace, Dania Beach, Florida. I am the sister of Miss Maria Villas, and I live a block and a half away from her. My concern is this, is that if this property is rezoned to a commercial zoning, if the church decides to pick up and leave, if whatever happened, because they have been there, which I said 40 years, there hasn't been any improvement that I've seen in the past 20 years, I'll put it that way. So my concern is now they want to increase the building, they want the zoning to change. So now we have zoning in the middle of a residential area. And it may be fine for everybody to think, oh, well, it's a church and all is well. But I have seen them park a bus right next to my sister's fence. I have seen trash in the yard. I have seen the building unkept. I don't mean any disrespect to the church, but I cannot imagine them adding more programs to what they have if they haven't taken care of what they've already had. Also, if they would go across Pippin Waters Road, that whole area is zoned commercial. So they don't have to leave the area, but they don't have to interrupt the neighborhood area. I don't think that it is appropriate, and for everyone that do, I think they should consider living next door to a church and see how they would feel. I live next door to a church. I live on 7 Terrace. There's a vacant lot and a church next to me. When anything at that church happens, my whole street is consumed. The people at that church do a great work, but the whole street is consumed. If they have a funeral, my parking area is completely taken. And I mean, I can go and interrupt the funeral or start having people cars towed, but I don't think that's a Christian attitude. I don't think that they have enough space to do what they want to do. I think the commissioner board need to go out and look at it for themselves. The property goes east and west. And they're given one address, 819, but there is a lot next to that. So what's going to happen to that lot? How are they going to zone that? Are they zoning both lots? Are they going to zone just the one lot? Are they going to pave it and make it a commercial area as well? I think all that need to be looked at. I think the board need to look at the property, and they would see it's not appropriate for a church. It's not big enough, and I think for all the people that's coming in to Dania Beach, it's one thing for sure. Whatever great work God has for you, it doesn't have to be designated for one area. Your work go wherever you go. So if they're busing in from Fort Lauderdale, they have the opportunity to move their location. They can move across Pippin Waters Road, or they can move to Fort Lauderdale.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dominique Huckabee. Hi. Hold on. We wait till you get on.
I'm Dominique Aviles Huckabee. I am a homeowner at 11236 Pembroke Pines. I'm a part-time resident at my childhood address where my mother owns the home, 813 Southwest 12th Avenue. She is Maria Aviles. I thank you all for giving me the opportunity to speak today. My primary concerns echo what my mother and my aunt have said here. I am not able to confirm that the church has been there for 40 years. I can remember a time when the building was vacant, and I'm only 33 years old. I mean no disrespect to anyone who is a member of the church. I myself, being a lifetime member of the Church of God in Christ, Drew Jackson is my pastor. Our church is Gamble Memorial Church of God in Christ down in Miami. However, in all my years of living at that address, since about 1994 when my great-grandmother passed away, I have not witnessed any after-school programs nor community outreach happening at that address. I have witnessed the churches across the street doing free breakfast and outreach programs in the community weekly, and I appreciate that, and I thank them for that. I have had personal encounters with the church as far as trash being thrown over my mother's fence. They did have a coach bus parked there, a large commercial bus parked near the fence for a period of time. She had suffered through a hip surgery and was confined to the home. I went over and asked them, could they just perhaps move the bus back so that she would have a view from her window. I met some resistance with that. So my concern is not with them wanting to worship. By all means, I think people should be able to worship as they please. I know that I do. But I feel like a church should be for the community. If you're serving the community, I don't think that the church should cause a hazard and problem for the community. My family legacy is in the property at 813 Southwest 12th Avenue. It was built by my great-grandfather when he migrated here from Georgia. I'm a fourth generation Floridian, and I love Dania Beach. That home will be left to my sister and I just take pride in it. I don't want to see the value of the property go down. I don't want to see my mother struggle after her retirement as serving for a Broward County school teacher for over 30 years with the neighbor that's adjacent to her home. She could live anywhere if she chose to, but she loved Dania Beach. And I think it's important for those that live in the community to have their voices to be heard. I'm glad that they want to worship, but as they have stated, most of the members are living in Fort Lauderdale and Margate. And so there are numerous communities in Fort Lauderdale that need to be served. So they can serve the communities where they live. The final thing I'd like to say is at the last meeting I did question the pastor, and I asked her, would she like a coach bus parked next to her resident? And she told me, of course not. And so for me, that's of great concern. Why would you, as a person in the community, want to have your neighbor suffering things that you yourself would not? I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Betty Ellis. Is your name here? Hold on. Yeah, you're going to have to do your whole introduction over again. I really apologize. Would you please say your name and address?
I must say to everyone, I apologize, but I'm here, and I'll go over again.
Thank you.
But I've been at the doctor's 2 hours before coming here. A sweet look at you. A sweet spider went into action a week ago. And I'm just beginning to realize who I am again because of antibiotics. So I may seem a little, but I'm prepared.
You're good.
I'm ready.
You're all right.
I am Betty Ann Hampton Ellis, since everybody's making sure that the board knows who they are. I reside at 143 Northwest 7th Avenue in Dania Beach, and now I will reveal it. 78 years ago, when I was the daughter of the first, or one of the first, black policemen.
All right.
Jabbo. If you know the name.
Shout out Jabbo.
Say hello, Jabbo. Now down to business. Currently at 78, I teach a 5th grade class at Northside Elementary School in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. But I live in Dania Beach because you've got to go where your work is. That's where my work is. That's my calling. That's my mission. Okay. I am 78, and these 11 and 12-year-olds seem to think they're at my, but I say, oh, no. Oh, no, baby cake. Oh, Miss Ellis said baby cakes. I'm going to move on because I only have 3 minutes.
Yeah, like 2 now. Yep.
I have 2 minutes.
2, yep.
I am here in support of the Biblical House of God, none other church. I'm here because in the year 2015, we worked, Pastor Williams and I, very hard to provide literacy training in the area. I am at St. Andrews on the Hollywood side of J.A. Ely Boulevard. So I'm at 2800 North 23rd. And we ran and learned and met each other at meetings. I can say here, at that time we established an after school, in-home, and whatever was needed, opportunity for students to build their literacy skills in math. For credentials, I have a Master of Education degree from Temple University in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I'm a past author with McGraw-Hill Book Company, where I wrote the first practice set for high schools and community colleges called Word Processing, Concepts and Applications, because I was the only one who knew what it was.
Ms. Betty.
Okay, in 1977. Okay. And brought it down to the school level. So I just put the credentials out there so you have a sense. I had the opportunity of working with the students. That's why when I turned around and saw this young lady, I remember her, and I have photographs that I can share of when this was set up, what the goals were, and how they're doing. Memorial Hospital gave each church six computers, and we serviced grades. Kindergarten, our program went through grade 3, and I think at the very beginning they had 3rd graders who really needed, they were acting like 1st graders.
So you're in support of this project?
I'm in support of the fact that, and I'm asking the commission if they will, get what they're missing. If they're missing the site plans, give them a chance to get them and turn them in so that they're given an objective review.
Okay.
If they need to do things to enhance their relationship with a community, let's get some consultation going on and make that happen so the neighbors are not, so that the neighbors are made to feel comfortable.
Okay.
So I'm in support
Thank you.
of whatever is fair and should be done so that both the neighbors, but I have actual data on their program. Sure, my son never came back to Dania Beach when he left. A lot of these people living in Fort Lauderdale, and they come back from college. We were fortunate with you, Mayor, you came back. Some of them have never come back, let's face it. And I hope that Brother George, because I remember him from the Zeta pageants as a master grandmama. I am here because I've been here. I was born right here.
Thank you. Thank you. Juliana Williams. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Juliana Williams. I reside at 735 Southwest 12th Avenue, Dania, Florida.
Could you speak a little louder into the mic, please?
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
After her. I don't know why you
It's
put me
hard to
after
follow,
her.
I know.
But anyway, I live on the corner, on the opposite side of the lady that was complaining about the bus. I've been there about 8 years now. And when that bus is there, that bus is only there at the most 3 to 4 days. And I mean, with the buses, you have things to do before you put it wherever it goes. But I don't think they're a nuisance. I go to church in Miami, and when I leave at 9 o'clock, they might be just coming. But by the time I get back, it's not long when they're gone. To me, I would give everybody a chance. And I don't see where there's a problem with the people. I mean, if they're trying to better the community because they put in a nicer church, I mean, it's okay, because next to their church, it's another little church. And that church looked like it's about to fall down. But I honestly think if they upgrade it, it'll be better.
Okay.
And that's all I want to say. Upgrade
Thank
is
you.
good for everything.
Thank you.
All right.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone who has not spoken that would like to speak? Yes. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes when you get to the mic.
I need that address. 723 is a lot that's right next door to it.
No, I need your address.
It's gonna be 813 Northwest 3rd Street.
But is that your
In
address?
Dania, yeah, apartment
Oh,
1.
Okay, you reading like you didn't know your address.
Well, I had to remember.
You had to remember your address.
I just got that.
Oh, you just moved?
On the church, it's another church over there called the House of God, across the street a little farther down, you know. But I want to go back to, I was just there before I came to this meeting at the Biblical Church of God. And it's, if that lot
Can I get your name?
Oh, Michael Bo Johnson.
Michael Bo Johnson?
Yes.
Okay.
And I just got to Dania Beach. I'm just moving back over. But back in February 22, 1992, I stayed right next door
Okay.
with Ezekiel Bird at
Okay.
that 723 address next to the Biblical House.
Okay.
The only reason I came today because I had stopped there just to see, but it ain't gonna be enough room for you to park. I had to park on the city sidewalk with my Mustang facing northbound. And I know if it's just 20 people coming there, they can't park legally without being on the roadway, because my car was almost with my door open touching the road. I hope that y'all realize that other spaces a little farther down, it's a building for sale. You should be a laundromat, and y'all can still have that house of God and use the other place for the other things y'all needed. And my only concern is they do get it granted, that 723 lot, do the city own that? She had it up earlier.
Corinne?
Could you put it?
I have no idea what lot he's
It's a
speaking
lot
of.
right there.
Is it a part of the, is
I
it a
just
part
wanna
of their
know, do
property?
they own that or the
Is
city
it
of Dania?
green grass?
Yeah, there was a house that I used to live there.
So okay.
That's
Is it
what
all
I'm-
one property now?
And I was in Dania Beach when I got married, with my marriage license. So that's, they call it Oasis or something now.
The
Since I
street
came
is
back to
Oasis.
college.
Every,
But that's still the Dania
Okay.
Beach. Can you
Well,
pull that back up, that address
it's right
next
there.
to it? I can't
Could you
see
cut
that.
the light off for a
I
second
can't
time?
see it.
'Cause I don't understand what
I
you're
just want to know if they own that, they could probably get a mobile,
Where? Okay.
mobile building.
Could you
Where's that?
highlight their property for me?
I just want to know if the city own that 723.
Are you talking about?
It's right behind it.
Look right here. This is the church. That's the church. All of that. So are you speaking about that?
Is that the east side of it?
That is the east side.
So they do own that lot, 723?
Sir, I don't know.
That's what I'm
what's
trying to ask
The
about.
city doesn't own it.
They don't, so they do
No,
own it?
we don't own it.
They could
We
probably
only
put a
own,
mobile.
3 properties, and then we just bought those very currently down the street from, as you go.
Yeah,
in.
no, not right there. I think that's a part of the church now. I don't know.
You
All right, well, I'm
across
asking-
from the funeral home, as you're going down to
Oh, you turn right, the
the
church.
next block, that's what we
Turn
own.
right is right down the right.
No, we don't own it.
No.
All right.
Okay.
So I'm asking that, for the city of Dania to grant them the opportunity, even if they don't want to reface, try to put a, mobile structure. Instead of trying to build an old building, put a mobile structure in there for that, like what they call them,
We
at the
can't
school.
tell them to
No.
build a mobile
What they
house.
call them at the school?
Oh, like a portable.
Yeah, portable thing back there to do that.
You want to put a portable in
No,
the
they
church
can
and have parking?
Roll it in there.
Roll it in there.
Just like the
Okay.
school board got the little mobile.
Okay.
That's just a, idea for them, because I
Okay.
don't think the building gonna be able to pass inspection.
Thank you.
It's a little old.
All right. Commissioner Salvino.
Thank you, Mayor. Seeing that they're not ready, and there's only 4 of us here tonight, and not a 5th vote, which could hurt them, because if we did take a vote on the first reading and it was split or lost, they would not be able to come back. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So,
That's correct.
you know, in advice, I would think you'd be better off, wait till the 5th commissioners here, present your plan back in full with the site plan, because right now, if you vote and it becomes 2-2 or 3-1, and it's 3-1 against you, you don't get to come back. So that's why the 5th commissioner is so important for the deciding vote, and I think it's in your best interest to present the plan and give us all an opportunity to review it, and then you still have a second reading besides that. So I'm just offering that as a suggestion. Unless you guys want to vote, that's up to you, Mayor.
Commissioner Grace.
I think you're exactly right. I don't think we should be voting on this. I just want you to understand that I'm not a person that doesn't know the area. I've been here since 1951. I walked to school, to Attucks. I knew the building. I've been there. I've been to the health fairs. I watched Mrs. Ellis with the literacy program when she came before Dania Beach Can. I know your pastor. I know the house that is the church, because we all went through those channels, all of the stores and all of the homes that were renovated and added some to it. I know how long you've been there, and you've been there for a long time. I don't think that as we get ready to do a lot of these changes, and we're upgrading our charters and the ordinance for the city of Dania Beach, we have to be very cautious and optimistic about how we do it, because at the same time we're trying to do upgrades in Dania Beach throughout the city, not just part of it. We have done some tremendous grassroots work and trying to make that community a better community, starting with the 3 lots that we've just purchased right down the street from you. Smith Store was one of them, the lot next to it, and the one that we fenced in on the corner, that we're trying to build very nice homes there. I know that God is going to be pleased with whatever decision we make, because he is the head of everything that happens in our life. We don't always make the decisions that you want us to make, but we try to make the decisions that we know that we have to live with on a daily basis. This is going to be a very tough thing for me, because I understand the plight of churches trying to grow. We have 2 in my area that have been for a couple of years to upgrade. It's something that is not overnight. It takes planning. If you're going to do a restructure of a larger building with more parking. Now, I can remember me going there, and we didn't have maybe about 7 or 8 parking spaces. Pastor, am I correct? Is she still here? Okay. Am I correct? Okay. And I know the house that is the church. And I know the residents. I did receive a couple phone calls, but they were not negative phone calls. They were phone calls about the upgrades of their communities and to make sure that their tax bases weren't going to be going down. And we haven't even gotten to that point yet, that we're going to be working on the fiscal budget for this year as to whether the millage rate is going to go down and the tax base is going to go down and it's going to go up. But I hope that whatever we decide to do after you bring back the site plan, I think that's the most important thing, Pastor. If the site plan is presented to us, even though planning and zoning approved it, we as elected officials got to make sure that we do what is necessary for the residents of Dania Beach. We really do. We want to do what's right for the churches too, but these are the people that we have to answer to one way or the other. And so I suggest, and I will make a motion at this time, that we table this item until you bring back your site plan to our next city commissioner meeting, which will be in 2 weeks. Am I correct? In 2 weeks.
If I can clarify for the commission, I don't think they can do a site plan within 2 weeks. They'd have to go through.
She said she
already had it, but she forgot.
It's not a site plan that you could approve. I'm going to let Corinne explain.
What I anticipate she has is a drawing of what they want to do.
It has to be a site plan.
The site plan
Or
has to be
rendering.
submitted to my department, go through DRC at 2 meetings, and then because it's less than an acre, it gets heard by the Planning and Zoning Board. They're about 3 months away from a public hearing, and even then, the Land Development Code dictates that it goes to P&Z, not to City Commission. But they can certainly show you what they're planning, so you have some point of reference.
So now I have another problem.
Yeah.
My problem is, why did the P&Z approve this without seeing a
They
site plan?
did not. They approved, they recommended the rezoning to you,
Okay.
but the site plan has not been before them.
Okay, all right.
I would like to know if we are going, if we decide to table this, I would like to know the impact. I don't know who from city staff could provide that for me, the impact of the neighborhood taxes on their homes, if it will be an increase or a decrease if this gets turned into C1. And I also wanted to assure, I know I heard someone mention about the other things that they might use for this. It would be restricted, a restricted covenant as what was put on there. But I'm for one too, I need to see a picture of what's going to go there, a visual of something, because I was born and raised in this area as well, in Dania Beach and Hollywood. And you know, whoever parks there, they have to park on the sidewalk as well as the church, because I know the area really well. I know it's already operating as a church. My only concern is what it is. Anything that is going to be proposed will be the safety of the residents and the people that are occupying that space. So I would really want to see how the parking spaces would comfortably fit there. And I wanted to know, are you guys proposing to make this a 2-story church? Yes. So now we have some more consideration on not only are they expanding it from east to west, they're expanding it going up and down, and that does interfere with the privacy of residents. I just try to think of things and put myself in the shoes of if I lived next to a church, how would I feel? And if I was occupying that church, how would I feel? So I think it's something that you all with the community to come together and come to a compromise. We've seen it happen a lot of different times with developments here in the city, so that you both get something that you may or may not want. But I could definitely tell you it'll be hard for me to rezone anything without understanding what exactly would be going there and understanding how it would directly and indirectly affect everyone that's surrounding it. So whatever you guys recommend. Oh, Vice Mayor, you had something?
No, I just wanted to make a motion to defer
we already
until.
had one.
Did you make a motion?
That's okay. Go ahead.
To make a motion to defer any action until we have a approved site plan and it goes through the proper channels.
Well, okay. See, that wasn't
The
the
site
motion.
plan
was-
cannot be approved
said-
if they submit because the use is not permitted in the zoning district.
Right, we have to,
Right, so
Right.
the motion was to table this until a fifth commissioner gets back into.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
submit some type of a drawing that we can visually see.
Okay.
Yes,
Was that the motion?
that is
That's
my
the motion.
So
motion.
that'd be for the next meeting,
That would be
Yes.
for the next
Okay.
meeting.
And I will second it.
which is the 22nd,
Next meeting.
May 22.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Grace?
Yes.
Commissioner Salvino?
Yes.
You said
Yes.
yes before you said.
Vice Mayor Harris?
Yes.
Mayor James?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, items 3 and 4 are related. I believe there's going to be a request to defer, but I will read them. There are people here that probably wish to speak. Item 3 is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, approving the site plan SB 1518 submitted by BC Dania Oaks LLC for the property located at
Tom.
54.
You want to wait till they leave? You'll be able to hear them or not. That'll be loud. I mean,
At 5461 to 5525 Southwest 40th Avenue in the City of Dania Beach, Florida, as legally described in Exhibit A, a copy which is attached to this resolution, providing for conflicts, providing for an effective date. That was continued from the April 10th Commission meeting, and the companion is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, approving the Oaks Place Plat, PL 1318, submitted by Baseline Engineering and Surveying on behalf of BCD Dania Oaks LLC for the property located at 5461 to 5525 Southwest 40th Avenue in the City of Dania Beach, Florida, as legally described in Exhibit A, a copy which is attached to this resolution, providing for conflicts, further providing for an effective date. Also continued from the April 10th, 2018 Commission meeting. I believe the attorney is here for the applicant.
This is do you want to speak now or afterwards?
Whatever. Probably first.
Okay, go ahead.
But once you can, okay. Is this getting deferred?
Yes.
Correct. They're
Okay.
asking for a
They're asking,
deferral.
We could have the lawyer come up and explain
Okay.
why.
Good evening, Alicia Lewis with the law firm of Greenspoon Martyr. My address is 200 East Broward Boulevard, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And we specifically are requesting a deferral following our last meeting that we had with the community. That was requested by staff that we have one more meeting so that we can show the site plan to the community, the most recent version of the site plan. We had that meeting on April 18th, I believe. And we had some resident feedback, specifically some of the residents to the south, the McGowans, who are here this evening. We started talking to them about kind of things that we can do to make those changes and accommodations that they've brought up at different meetings. We've done some of them, but we want to make sure we get something before you that is in that final state. We also submitted additional information to your city attorney, and we just wanted that additional time to make sure that what we brought forth to you, because this project has been going on so long, was something that we had really done everything we possibly could to make sure the neighbors were proud of.
Okay. You have a question?
Yeah, now I do.
Go ahead.
Okay. My speak run? I sound like I hear myself. Okay, anyhow, on this project, I know it keeps getting delayed and delayed and delayed. So there's a couple things I want to bring out to the public while we're here, okay? First of all, just a short revisit to this project. It started off with all the addition to the homes that were being put in. It was set back. There was some disgruntled residents, variance requests that were being asked, which got turned away. The developer decided to make some adjustments, eliminate all the variance requests,
Yes, sir.
which allows him now to come into the city and be able to do this project. And we really don't have anything that we have to vote on. I mean, that we can vote no at this point, which I'm going to get to that in a minute, other than that now you're trying to accommodate some more of the, I understand the wall being moved back and some plants and so on. But I'd like Tom, our city attorney, to explain why this project cannot be turned down by the commission at this time, because it puts us in a very tough element to vote on something that that a lot of the residents are not happy with, but it also puts us in a position that if we don't vote for it, the city can be sued for, and I'll let the city attorney explain that to the residents.
Well, one thing is, this case hasn't come before you yet, so I can't give you an opinion on what.
Okay.
But
All right, well,
I'll
give my opinion then, all
no,
right?
what I can do, because I can explain, if upon the application and the whole hearing, if it's demonstrated that all the site plan requirements have been met and all the plat requirements have been met, it would be very difficult for the city commission to deny either the site plan approval or the plat. That is correct.
Okay, I just want to make that clear because,
Well, I have clarification for him with what
Sorry?
you asked. I need
Okay.
clarification. So will we be sued of a dollar amount?
They would probably sue to obtain approval for the permit to.
So not a dollar amount?
It wouldn't be by money, no.
Okay.
It'd be,
That was
it'd be an
that was
approval.
but it would still cost us money to defend.
To defend
the
it,
case,
absolutely.
Which could
Okay.
get into $100,000 or so. Or more.
Litigation on this.
And
on la-
the point,
again,
I know that the residents that are here that are understand that they don't want this, that they may be opposed to the project. The best we can offer them at this time as the developer to continue to work with them to try to make some modifications to the entranceway.
And that's exactly what we wanted to do. We wanted to make sure we worked out as much as we could.
You know, I voted against the project to begin with because I wasn't real happy with all the flex homes being given out at one time. But that's past the point. Now I don't have a choice. So I just want to clarify that because we're beating this back and forth all the time. And I mean, I don't know if you're going to do this, sit down with whomever's calling you out there and get it figured out and let us vote and get it going. I mean, it's,
That's our intention.
I don't even know
yes,
why
sir.
we can't vote on it tonight. I mean, it's a simple fact that we have to vote for it, so why can't we get it done and not have to keep bringing this up and taking our time every week?
Is that a question or
That's
you?
a question. I mean, I don't know
Oh,
what the
okay.
problem
I mean,
is.
if you would like to,
I mean,
we
it's
could,
public
but I
hearing,
mean,
and
the
The
client,
public hearing is here, but I mean, if you're going to do the things you're doing, I mean, next week it's going to be the same thing.
Right.
We have to hear the same people over. We're going to sit here for another hour and then so on, when we already know what we've been told by the city attorney in a conversation.
Commissioner, if I could, I think a number of people from the neighborhood believe this is being deferred.
yeah, we did
So-
notify those people.
All right.
I mean,
I think they'd be deprived of the ability to speak. I know the McGowans, if they, anybody that's here can speak tonight.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to that point eventually.
Okay.
but I appreciate being put on the record now, but we could.
I have a question. So from what you said, you guys met on the 18th of April.
Mhm.
But why did we get a notice of deferral yesterday?
Because we intended to move forward, and we thought that we would be able to, work with the McGowans, and also there was a neighbor who wanted to look at the tree survey because of the oak trees that are in the neighborhood. They wanted to look at the tree survey and actually walk the property to see what trees were going to be relocated or removed. We explained to them that we were trying to decrease that amount as much as possible, but they wanted to actually say, okay, this is a tree that's in bad condition that they, was marked by the city's arborist, and this is why this has to be removed. They just wanted to see it and know what was going on. So, and that takes time for them to be able to come to the property and walk it and
So they
have the
just
tree survey.
said this yesterday?
Well, there was a
'Cause I'm
resident
trying-
who wanted the
'cause
tree
I'm really trying to
survey.
figure out between the 18th of April and
No, I
then
understand.
yesterday, because the issue that I do understand from a resident's perspective is, you get this agenda and you
Okay.
understand that this is going to be on it. You schedule your week or your job and all these things, and then it's not communicated to the rest of the residents until yesterday. But you guys met and knew this on the 18th. And so I'm trying to correlate the.
No, I definitely understand your concerns, and those residents were in pretty much most of our meetings that we had. Is the same kind of group that really
Mhm.
live in the
Sure.
close-knit surrounding area. And so we wanted to make sure, just like I said, that we brought something back that allowed us to, one, the residents could feel comfortable knowing what trees were going to be there, which ones weren't, because they want to preserve the feeling and the beauty of their neighborhood, and they want to make sure that we're doing that to the best of our. So they want that chance to walk the property. If we just weren't able to coordinate schedules to do that, I don't want a resident up here saying they're worried about trees when we could have gotten that issue taken care of before bringing it back to you.
get it.
So
I get
I
it.
understand, and I apologize that it's taken this long, but again, we've worked before on different projects, and our goal is always to mitigate as many of the concerns as we can, especially when it comes down to a ministerial and administrative function. Because you don't want residents thinking that you're just making a decision, not hearing them, when we could quell some of those concerns before they get to you. So.
What I will say is that I understand some of the comments that have been made, but I won't make the same mistake I did with the COM project and believe that I'm going to go to jail because I vote no. And so that is not what's going to happen this time around. Not that you had anything to do with that. No. You had nothing to do with that, but it was the same kind of thing. Like, you have to vote yes. It's the law. We have to vote yes, or XYZ is going to happen. And guess what? They're trying to flip the COM property, and they're going to sell it to someone else. And so I really want to, I'm going to vote for my heart.